What's up guys, welcome to my Mistweaver Monk Healing Guide for patch 7.1.5. Now in this guide I'm going to go over your spells and abilities, your talents, your artifact traits and pathing choices, your stat priority, and then your healing rotation if you will, or healing priority, as well as demonstrations of that in both a dungeon and raid setting, and then just wrap up with some macros and add-ons that I use that you might find useful. Let's go ahead and start by looking at your spells and abilities. And I want to start with an ability that's passive called Soothing Mist, and it's attached to a few of your healing spells. Now when you cast one of these spells, you'll start to channel Soothing Mist on that target and heal them for a little bit, for a long duration, but a little small amount over a long duration every so often, and basically it'll keep going until you cancel it or cast another spell or move or something like that. First spell that does that is Effuse, and Effuse is a short cast, low mana cost spell. Just heals the target. And so you see I get healed for a little, and then I start channeling Soothing Mist. If I move, it cancels. If I cast another spell, including the same spell, it'll cancel until I finish casting that spell. And that's pretty much how it works, it'll just go for a very long time. The next spell is Vivify. Basically a similar spell, it's more expensive, very much more expensive. It has the same cast time, and it heals the target and then two nearby targets. So it kind of has a splash heal attached to it, but the range on that splash is pretty big. It's a fairly large range, so just keep that in mind. But much more expensive heal, and we'll proc Soothing Mist. Then we got Enveloping Mist. It's a heal over time, hot spell, longer cast time, and while it's active, you actually do 30% more healing to that target. So it increases your healing on that target by 30% while it's active, and as you can see, also proc Soothing Mist. Next we've got Renewing Mist, and this is a heal over time spell, and it's got an 8-second cooldown, so you just put it on someone and it heals them, and every time it heals it has a chance to proc a 40% buff to Vivify on the next Vivify cast, and then if it heals a target that's at maximum health, or the heal that it does brings someone to max health, then it will jump to a nearby ally within 20 yards and then continue ticking down. Next up is Essence Font. This is a channeled spell, very expensive on mana, and basically it shoots out bolts that heal nearby allies and then heals them directly, and then it also heals them over time. So if you get close to someone here, you channel Essence Font and you see they get heals up front and then heal over time as well. Now any person that is affected by that heal over time also gets the benefit of your mastery twice, and I'll explain what that means. Basically they get more healing, more extra healing if you heal them later. We have our artifact ability, Shailen's Gift. This has no cooldown, but basically when you're in combat, you will proc or produce these little mist clouds, and every so often you'll produce another one, and you can have up to 12 at a time. And for every cloud that is available when you cast this spell, it will heal the target for more. So each cloud for me is healing for about 87,000, as you can see here. So if I had, say, 10 clouds, that would be an 870,000 heal. So the cast is a bit long, and it's a single target heal, but it is free, so can be quite potent. Now that's what we have for our main healing spells. As far as cooldowns go, we do have a Life Cocoon as a tank or single target healer cooldown. This is a 3-minute cooldown, puts a giant absorb shield on, and it also increases the healing over time effects on that person by 50%. So if you have your hots or someone else's hots on them, this amplifies that effect. It also does cause Soothing Mist as well, so when you put this on someone, you'll start channeling Soothing Mist. Next is our big raid cooldown. It's called Revival. It's a 3-minute cooldown, and it heals everyone within 40 yards in your party or raid for a decent amount, and then dispels them of all magic, poison, and disease effects. So it's both a master spell and a big raid heal. We also have a very interesting spell called Thunder Focus Tea on a 30-second cooldown, and this basically buffs one of your 5 healing spells: your Effuse, Enveloping Mist, Essence Font, Renewing Mist, or Vivify. And it does something different for each one. So if you use it with Effuse, you gain 200% healing on that cast. If you use it with Enveloping Mist, the next cast of Enveloping Mist is instant rather than having a cast time on it. Essence Font, if you buff it with this spell, allows you to move while you're channeling that spell. Renewing Mist won't trigger its cooldown, and Vivify is free of mana cost, so it gets rid of the mana cost of Vivify. With the Renewing Mist, what it basically does is if you pop it, and then you cast Renewing Mist, you'll see it's not on cooldown. Maybe you'll cast it again on someone, and now it'll proc its cooldown. So you basically get 2 instead of 1 that you can kind of spam in succession if you like. Other than that, we do have some utility. We've got Dispel, of course. This Detox is basically like Revival, but single target. 8-second cooldown, removes all magic, poison, and disease effects from a single target. You also have your CC, Paralysis, 20-yard range, 15-yard cooldown, incapacitates a target. If they take damage, it breaks. Just note that it does actually remove dots as well on the target if they were on before you cast Paralysis. So just be aware of that in case your DPS yell at you or wondering what's going on. And then we've got some movement abilities. We've got Roll, which is your main movement ability, 2 charges, 20-second recharge. You either roll in the direction you're facing, like so, or in the direction you're moving. So you can go whatever which way and then roll that way as well. We also have a teleport in Transcendence, and this puts down an image of you. And then you can cast the spell that goes along with it, Transcendence Transfer, and this will swap you and that image. So you cast that, and it swaps you and moves your image over there, and then you can either leave your image there, or you can replace it somewhere else if you like. We do have a taunt in Provoke, if you find that useful at some point in an encounter. And then we have our offensive abilities, and we have a few of them. The first I want to go over is Crackling Jade Lightning, pretty simple. It's a channeled spell, and as you can see, it just ticks off and does some damage to a target. Doesn't cost anything, completely free. So use that if you want to stay at range, but do a little bit of extra damage. Then we have a couple of melee abilities, and the first is Tiger Palm. Pretty simple, it's a spammable ability, it's free, and it just does damage in melee range, so you just punch them for a good amount of damage. And then we have Rising Sun Kick. It's got a longer cooldown, or it actually has a cooldown, which is decently long, does more damage, looks something like that. And then we finally have Blackout Kick. It has a shorter cooldown, and it does damage in between Tiger Palm and Rising Sun Kick, but it has a couple of extra effects because of a passive called Teachings of the Monastery, and basically it makes it so that when you Blackout Kick, you have a chance to reset your Rising Sun Kick cooldown. And also when you Tiger Palm, you'll see I build stacks of this Teachings buff, and for every stack I have up to 3, which is the maximum, you'll do an extra kick of Blackout Kick. So if I press it now at 3 stacks, I will actually hit 4 times instead of 1. So 1 stack will give you 2 kicks, 2 stacks will give you 3 kicks, and 3 stacks will give you 4 kicks. Each of those kicks has a separate chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Rising Sun Kick. And finally we have Spinning Crane Kick. It's a practically free spell. It costs a little bit of mana, but it basically is negligible. And basically it just, as you can see, these NPCs doing as well, just spins and does damage for essentially free if you are bored, need to AoE, and so on. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at our talents. Now, at level 15, generally you're going to want Chi Burst for any AoE healing situations. So if you want to heal multiple people, this is pretty much your only option. And it's just a short cast, shoots an energy wave in front of you like so, and it heals things that it hits if they're friendly, and it does damage to enemies as well. So it can be kind of nice for AoE damage if you need that. Zen Pulse is a single target heal, but it does a pulse around the target that you choose, and it damages enemies, and for every enemy that it hits, it heals the person for more. So each enemy, in my case, heals the person for 96k per enemy hit. It can be good for anything with AoE where you want to focus on single target, but there's lots of adds to hit. So things like Mythic Dungeons come to mind if you want to have more single target healing. But even in those situations, if you want more AoE healing, then Chi Burst is going to be your go-to. This walk, generally don't use this too often. If you want more mobility, this is a good option. It's a 2-charge system, 20-second recharge, but it does less healing than the other 2. But it does give you more mobility. It makes you dash to the target, so you can move out of mechanics faster, for example, if you like to do that. Now, level 30, they're all movement abilities, or talents, so choose whichever one you like. Chi Torpedo turns your roll into a torpedo, looks like this. You go a bit further, and you get this little movement speed boost at the end of it. Tiger's Lust is an active ability. You cast it on someone, they move faster for a duration, and it also removes roots and snares. It doesn't make you immune to them, or the person immune to them, but it does remove them initially. And finally, Celerity just gives you another charge of roll, and reduces the cooldown of rolls by 5 seconds, so kind of up to you what you want in this movement tier. At level 45, you got a couple mana regeneration talents or mana efficiency talents, and then a throughput talent for single target healing. So I generally recommend life cycles if you are in a raid situation and you need mana regeneration and you use lots of Vivify. What this does is it makes it so that when you cast Vivify or Enveloping Mist, it reduces the mana cost of the other spell by 20%. So for example, I cast Vivify, I get this buff that reduces the cost of Enveloping Mist by 20%, And if I cast Enveloping Mist, the opposite happens. I get a buff that reduces the mana cost of Vivify by 20%. So you can kind of cycle through those and save some mana. Now, if you want to do fist weaving, and you're interested in that, and you need lots of mana back, Spirit of the Crane is really good. And what this does is, every time you use those Teachings of the Monastery buff, they give you the extra blackout kicks that proc from your Tiger Palm, then you restore some mana. So this can be really good if you're doing a very mana intensive rotation, or you just like to fist weave. This is a really good mana efficiency talent related to that. And then if you don't have mana issues in a raid, so you don't use Vivify, or you just don't have mana problems, then you can take Mistwrap instead, as well as I would recommend it in dungeons because you don't need to be that efficient mana wise, because you can drink in between pulls. And what this does is it buffs your Enveloping Mist by 1 second, so it lasts a second longer, and it increases the healing bonus by 10%. It also allows you to channel Soothing Mist while you're moving. As you can see, when I have this talent, I can move around and keep channeling this as long as I like. Now, level 60, they're all CC talents, so kind of pick what you need. I generally recommend Leg Sweep. It's a stun around you, a melee range stun, so it can be quite useful in a lot of situations, dungeons and raids alike. Song of Chi-Ji, it's a sleep cloud and it kind of travels forward and puts stuff to sleep. Don't really see that often, don't use it that often, but hey, if you want to play with it, you can definitely give it a whirl. And Ring of Peace, similarly, don't use it too often, but it does have its uses. You put a ring down on the ground, and enemies that try to walk through it get knocked back, so if you need to knock stuff back for some reason, you can try it out. But generally, you'll find Leg Sweep is pretty good use, but kind of up to you here. Level 75, I recommend Healing Elixirs by default, but if you want a defensive cooldown that you can pop, then one of the other two options is going to be better in that sense. Now, Healing Elixir is basically a heal that procs automatically when you drop below 35% health. It's got 2 charges, 15% health regained when you use the charge, and you can use it manually as well if you just want to heal yourself up. If you need magic damage reduction, take Diffuse Magic. 1.5 minute cooldown reduces the magic damage you take significantly and tries to put any harmful debuffs or dots back onto the target or whoever cast it on you. Dampen Harm is a 2 minute cooldown, and basically it reduces the damage you take from anywhere from 20% to 50% based on how much damage you take. So the bigger the hit is, the more damage it reduces. It's not quite as strong as Diffuse Magic, but it does reduce physical damage as well. So if the damage you're worried about is physical, then you could take Dampen Harm as a cooldown instead of Diffuse Magic. Level 90, generally I'm going to recommend Chi-Ji, the Red Crane here. It's a nice 3 minute cooldown, and it summons this bird that goes around and pokes people and heals them, and it lasts a really long time. 45 seconds. The heal is pretty small, but it keeps going around and healing people, so it's nice for like a moderate cooldown that you can use maybe in conjunction with a smaller cooldown like Spirit Link or Commanding Shout or Vampiric Embrace or something in a raid. Now, if you're interested in more single target healing, Summon Jade Serpent statue can be pretty good. You just put it down, and basically it will channel Soothing Mist on the target as well as your own Soothing Mist. So you see I stop casting here, and it'll still keep going. It heals for half the amount of your actual Soothing Mist, but every time you cast a spell that puts Soothing Mist on another target, it will follow that target instead. So it's going to be really good for like tank healing, lots of just consistent free healing as you reapply Soothing Mist to them. But generally, if you want to do any other kind of healing, like any sort of splash healing, AoE healing, raid healing, then you're going to want Chi-Ji instead. And if your group is really stacked, you can try out Refreshing Jade Wind. It summons a tornado, and basically it just spins around for a bunch of healing, and it increases the effect and the healing of Essence Swamp by 20% while it's active. So if you combine the two, it's quite mana inefficient. It's very expensive, but it's a lot of healing you can do. So you combine this with some Essence Font, but it takes a lot of mana. If you take this, I do recommend taking Spirit of the Crane for that heavy mana regeneration, so that you can kind of keep up with how much mana you're putting out. And the other thing about this talent is you do want the group or raid to be stacked in order to use it effectively. Otherwise, you're not healing as many people with this. You're kind of losing value on that. So if they're spread out, I wouldn't really recommend it either. Now for level 100, if you're in a raid and you need mana, if you're running out of mana sometimes, I do recommend Mana Tea as a default there. This basically reduces the mana cost of your spells by 50% for 10 seconds. So when you use this cooldown, you can basically spam out expensive spells without too much regard for your mana, because it's very efficient and can be really nice for saving cooldowns, even in high damage periods if you're not supposed to use them. Now, if you don't have any mana issues or you're in a dungeon, you can use Focus Thunder instead, and this makes your Thunder Focus Tea empower 2 spells instead of 1. So instead of just the next spell being empowered, it's the next 2 spells. So basically it just doubles up on the effect of Thunder Focus Tea. It can be very cool. And if you're interested in fist weaving, then you're going to be taking Rising Thunder, and this makes it so that your Rising Sun Kick resets the cooldown on your Thunder Focus Tea. So basically you get more uses of Thunder Focus Tea, even though they only affect 1 spell. And because you'll be using Rising Sun Kick anyway in a fist weaving rotation, it just allows you to get a lot more Thunder Focus Tea and thus more buffed spells out. But generally I recommend one of the other 2, unless you're really into the fist weaving style. Now let's go ahead and take a look at your artifacts, traits, and pathing choices here. So you're going to start out down here, grab Mist of Wisdom, because you're healing, and then I recommend grabbing Essence of the Mist, boost your AoE healing through Essence Font, Spare Tether on the way, and then your buff to Developing Mist, Way of the Mistweaver, and then your first golden trait, Mist of Shaylun. Now this just gives you a proc sometimes that increases your healing over time spells, your HOTS, by 20%, and when it ends, it kind of pulses a wave of healing around you to anyone that's nearby. So very cool first golden trait, and then after that, you can grab either Mist of Life if you want a bigger cooldown first. It improves your life cocoon. It makes it apply both of your HOTS, so your Renewing Mist and your Enveloping Mist to the target. And you can also grab Extended Healing, longer Renewing Mist, and bigger Vivify Heal as well. Kind of up to you if you want these first, that's fine. Although you do get the full value of this trait in just 1 point, which could be something to consider. And then after that, it's up to you which way you want to go with your golden traits. You can either get bigger cooldowns, so a bigger life cocoon here, and a bigger revival, 30% more on your revival up here, or you can go for more consistent healing on the left side first, whichever you need, think you need, prefer, and so on. Shroud of Mist just reduces the damage you take. It's cool, doesn't really improve your healing much. Dancing Mists gives your Renewed Mist a 10% chance to immediately spread again if you initially cast it, or when it actually travels to a new target on its own, it has a chance to split off and apply to a new target. This one just reduces or increases your healing done by Effuse. Not super useful, you don't use it that often, and it doesn't do that much healing anyway. And then your third golden trait, or second, depending on which way you went. Celestial Breath, when you pop Thunder Focus Tea, you breathe out this healing cone in front of you, and it heals for a little bit, so it's kind of like free healing every time you use Thunder Focus Tea. Pretty nice. And then at that point, you're left with Soothing Mist healing buff, which is, again, not super useful, but it's there. And then Lighten Your Feet, which is probably the most useless thing possibly, but up to you which one you want to get last, doesn't really matter. And then at that point, of course, you're just left with your Paragon traits. Now, as far as relics go, I recommend anything that increases your main healing spells. So that will be Renewing Mist, Vivify, Enveloping Mist, or Essence Font. Now, Renewing Mist and Vivify are applicable in both single target and dungeon and raid healing, so these are probably the safest 2 choices, kind of depending on what you want to do more. And then if you want to focus on more single target healing, you can get Way of the Mistweaver, the Enveloping Mist buff. And if you're more focused on AoE healing, you could also grab Essence of the Mist, which will increase your Essence Font healing. Now let's go over your stat priorities briefly, and I will make mention of the fact that you can change these based on what you're doing, what kind of content you're doing, as well as your own preference and style. So don't be afraid to differ or vary from what I suggest here. But in general, I will recommend crit and versatility for raids, and then mastery and haste as kind of your lower 2 stats, haste being the lowest. And the reason is crit and versatility both apply to all of your spells, all of your healing spells, and all of the effects, whereas mastery only applies to single target heals, and haste is just really mana inefficient, which in a raid is kind of important to have that efficiency. Crit does do a little bit more than versatility, but versatility also gives you, of course, more survivability. So those are the top 2. Now, mastery, what it does is when you cast Effuse, Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist, or Vivify, they basically heal an extra time on the first target you casted on, the primary target, for an amount based on your mastery. So even though Vivify splashes and Renewing Mist jumps, it actually only heals the first target that you hit with it, the main target. So it's pure single target healing increase. And then haste just allows you to cast faster, and of course makes your hots tick faster. So it's not a huge benefit in a raid. Plus, the fact that you cast faster means you cast more, means you spend more mana more quickly. Thus, not quite as efficient in raids. Now in Mythic Plus, where mana efficiency is not the name of the game, haste is really important. So I'd prioritize that first, and then mastery, and then crit, and then verse. Now haste there is really important to be able to spam those spells out. And again, you can drink between pulls, so it's not as important that you don't go after a huge trash pull after a boss dies finally. Mastery, of course, the single target healing is going to be a much bigger aspect in a dungeon. There's only 5 people, and you're only one healer. So being able to have your heals heal more with a lot of mastery is really nice. Especially, and you can even use things like Essence Font. And Essence Font does interact with your mastery, making it heal twice instead of just once. So when you heal someone that has Essence Font, you don't just get this 86k heal in my case once. You get it twice on the target, so it's pretty cool as well. Basically more single target healing, which is kind of the name of the game, sort of, in Mythic Plus. So haste and then mastery, and then crit and then verse being less important in Mythic Plus. Now I want to go ahead and talk about your healing priorities, or kind of how you react to certain damage. And the first thing I want to mention is you can let Soothing Mist channel if there's really low damage, because it's free, and if there's not taking that much damage, there's no reason to cast out the spells. The first thing you want to do in any situation is use Renewing Mist on cooldown. Try to have it off cooldown as much as possible. Cast it as often as you can on different people. Blanket the raid, blanket the group. Try to keep this rolling as much as you can. Now, if there's light single target damage, you can use Effuse, but again, basically you're just using Effuse to cast Soothing Mist, and then you let Soothing Mist channel, because it's free and it does a decent amount of healing versus Effuse. Now, if you have heavier single target damage, I go to Enveloping Mist for that heavy hitting, like single target, maybe tank damage, for example. Get this buff on, and then start using Vivify if you think you need more healing than just the buffed Soothing Mist on Enveloping Mist. And you can spam Vivify as you need. Now, this is technically not just a single target heal, but it does do more single target healing than Effuse does. And it will splash some healing to 2 nearby targets. So if you happen to have some damage happening as well, then you can use Vivify for that. If you need to AoE heal a lot, like really big AoE heals, then Essence Font is what you're going to want to use. And I'm talking like 5, 6 or more targets than that. Hits the whole raid. Essence Font is very expensive, but it does lots of healing. And if you happen to have lots of mastery in your build, or you're just gearing setup, then you can try to take advantage of that double effect of Gust of Mists, your mastery, and kind of pick people up that way. So casting the other spells on those targets that you want to pick up. But if you don't have high mastery, you've got really low mastery, and you're just dealing with lots of AoE damage, just cast it again and again, as many times as you need to heal people up. Just watch the mana consumption, it's pretty brutal. As far as using your Thunder Focus Tea, it really depends on your situation. I tend to use it on Renewing Mist quite a bit, especially in raids, sometimes in Mythic Plus as well. It just helps you blanket the raid in more Renewing Mists. So because it gives you an extra cast of Renewing Mist without going on cooldown, so you can put it on more people. Now, if you're in a Mythic Plus, for example, or you want to focus on single target healing, the instant Enveloping Mist can be quite nice, because you don't have to wait for the cast time, and it can help pick up a tank or someone that's low quite easily. And then if you're running out of mana, Vivify is a really good mana efficient option, because it makes it free. And then if you have to move, for example, maybe like on Trilliax, when the beams are going and you want to heal people, maybe they're taking damage from having eaten cake or something, then you could Thunder Focus Tea and then run while channeling this to heal up a bunch of people, for example. Or you might use that on Renewing Mist. Kind of up to you there. I generally don't recommend using it on Effuse ever. It's really not worth it versus the other options. But kind of play with it, see what feels good, and how you like to use it in different situations. The cooldowns are pretty simple. If someone's taking a lot of damage, like a tank or just someone, use Life Cocoon to save them if you want. And if the raid's taking lots of damage, use Revival for heavier damage or Master Spell. And use Chi-Ji if you take it as a talent for kind of lighter to moderate damage going out. It just lasts longer too. So if it's more consistent damage rather than just like a burst heal, you can use this as well. Mana Tea, pretty simple usage. If you do take this talent in a raid, just pop it and generally use it for Essence Font is what I love to use it on. It cuts the mana cost down significantly and allows you to chain cast it sometimes without going completely So really, really nice to be able to use it like that. And Chi Burst, if you do have this, or Zen Pulse, try to use them as much as possible when it's going to be effective. So again, for Chi Burst, when there's AoE damage going out, you can kind of throw this forward. It's free, so it's very mana efficient, of course. And then Zen Pulse, use it, it's a single target heal when there's lots of adds around the target, typically like a tank or a melee perhaps, and they'll give you a bigger heal. So here we are in a dungeon. I want to show you kind of how I heal in a dungeon, or how I think about things. So this did get face pulled, so there's a lot of damage going out. So I had Thunder Focus Tea and Chi Ji, and I used the Thunder Focus Tea with Focus Thunder to put 2 Enveloping Mists up to kind of heal myself and the mage up quickly for single target healing. I try to heal them, Shami, but he does die, descending and stuff, and Rampage. I did Revival there to kind of help out with the Rampage damage. And then I put Enveloping Mist because he's low, and then Vivify spam to kind of pick him up. Now I put Enveloping Mist on the tank just to keep them alive. I see he's taking damage still, the Shami. So Renewing Mist, and then Effuse to just get some light soothing mist going. And then Vivify to kind of pick up the tank, single target, but also to splash healing to the others. Now, Thunder Focus Tea here, I'm going to blanket the raid, or party, excuse me, in Renewing Mist, just to get some constant healing. I know they're going to be spread quite a bit, going to different heads and such. And then here I'll put Enveloping Mist up, or try to, and then I say I should browse on this thing. Now here I put Enveloping Mist to get the buff, the healing buff and the healing, and then I'll Shailun's Gift with 8 or 9 stacks or so, and to give a really big heal. Then I will Life Cocoon the tank because they got a bit low, and then again put Renewing Mist when I can, Vivify, single target, as well as a little bit of splash healing. And then here I have Thunder Focus Tea, so I'll use it to put some more Renewing Mists on people, just to get lots of, kind of consistent and good hot healing on everyone as much as possible. And then here, try to pick up the Pally. And this is kind of what you're thinking about doing, just looking at the damage and reacting to it. Now I could Essence Font technically because there's lots of AoE damage, but people are really far apart and it's got a pretty short range, so I didn't think I'd be able to get much value out of it. Now here I try to save the mage here. I don't have Thunder Focus Tea quite yet, so I cast Enveloping Mist and then try to heal him up by putting another hot on him, Thunder Focus Tea to put some Renewing Mist on a bunch of people, and then just Vivify for some AoE healing as well as single target. And here everyone's really low, so I'm trying to Vivify and pick people up. Shailun's Gift on the Paladin to pick him up, Vivify on the Shami, and this might have been a decent time to Essence Font maybe if I wanted to do more AoE healing. They were fairly close, still a little far, but kind of just use what's at your disposal and kind of take advantage of that. And same thing for Chi Burst. I would have used it more here, but people were very spread out, so it wouldn't have been quite as effective. Now you notice I'm pretty owned by the end of this fight. There was a really messy pool, and it wasn't supposed to happen. But it's okay because generally by the end of the fight, you'll be able to drink. And so it won't matter now here, someone pull something. So I won't be able to, but I do get the drink afterward. So you don't have to be as efficient. It's a lot more Vivify and Enveloping Mist use because there's not as much AoE healing, and there's only 5 people. So Vivify is almost an AoE heal in that sense. And now here we are in a raid setting. And in this case, we're going to be using a lot less of Vivify and Enveloping Mist. Still a lot of them, but not purely those. And I am taking Mana Tea because I do need that mana regeneration, very important for me. But I'm still taking Mistrap because I found historically I didn't need the extra mana on the site. So here I take some damage. There's a lot of AoE going on. So I have Essence Font once. I don't want to use it too much because it's pretty expensive. But I see here, oh, here comes Slam with lots of damage. I pop Mana Tea and start casting Essence Font more. Chi Burst for some AoE healing. Essence Font again. I could have Chi Bursted first so I can make more use of Mana Tea's, mana reducing time. But that's something I could improve perhaps, or something to think about. Now here the tank's taking damage, so I pop Enveloping Mist on them. Try to get some single target healing. And then go back, always just trying to use Renewing Mist on cooldown as much as possible. So here, put Renewing Mist on someone, start Vivifying, the tank's taking damage. Here comes Slam, so I Revival, there's a lot of damage there. Enveloping Mist, eventually I just decide now Life Cocoon instead. He's just too low, so big cooldown for the tank there. And then Vivify to pick up that person, that Paladin there, as well as a couple of nearby people. And then Enveloping Mist on the tank, because I see they're taking a bit of damage, and I know they're going to take damage because of stacks. Here comes another AoE damage ability, so I'm going to Chi Burst first, and Essence Font a bit to pick them up. I noticed they're pretty good, so I'm not going to spend more mana on Essence Font. So instead, put Renewing Mist out, Vivify some people. Essence Font again, we're quite low, or there's a lot of AoE damage at least. And then try to pick up the tank here. So I put a Renewing Mist to proc that double mastery, Gust of Mists. And then just kind of, I'll put some more tank healing up on the bear. We're taking some damage. I could Essence Font here if I wanted, but instead I will first Thunder Focus Tea to get a little of that extra healing from that golden trait. and then Vivify, and so on. So you just kind of see you're reacting to damage, looking at what's happening, taking advantage of what you have. Here, Manatee comes up just in time, so I'll use it. And again, I could have cheapest it first before I double tap my Essence Font button. But basically, you're pretty versatile, especially in a raid. So use the tools available, use your cooldowns and your abilities as much as you need, and when you need, you know, and you do have a lot of utility. You can single target heal quite well, you can raid heal quite well, and try to conserve your mana as you need, but don't be afraid to spend, especially when you have Manatee up. Now, as far as macros and add-ons go, I do use a few macros. When I fist weave, I do use a 2-in-1 or several 2-in-1 macros. So I've macroed into one button Effuse and Tiger Palm, so that based on what I'm targeting, it will change. So in this case, if I cast at no one, if I have no target, it will cast Effuse. If I'm targeting a friendly person, it will cast Effuse. And if I'm targeting an enemy, it will cast Tiger Palm. So I walk up and can press the same button and it does Tiger Palm instead. I've done the same thing for Vivify and Rising Sun Kick and Enveloping Mist and Blackout Kick, so that I can save space on my bars. And this allows me to kind of keep an eye or use these more easily without cluttering up my bars. And that's pretty much all I use that for. I will have these linked in the description so you can check them out if you're interested in that. Other than that, I don't really use too many macros right now as a Mistweaver. As far as add-ons go, I do have some, and the main one that I use is Weak Auras 2. And you probably saw this during the demonstration and just throughout the video, but I'm using it to track things like buffs. So when do I have like my Mist of Sheilun artifact trait buff, when I have stuff coming off cooldown, stacks of like Teachings of the Monastery, whatever. You can do lots of stuff with it. I use it very simply for very basic stuff that you can do really cool things with it. I also do have Doom cooldown pulse. Now this I don't really recommend, but I just want to let you know what it is that you keep seeing. And this is that little flash in the middle of the screen when things are supposed to be off cooldown. It's been kind of inaccurate lately, so I don't really recommend it for that reason. Plus, you can do the exact same effect in Weak Auras, so kind of no point to it really. But if you want an easy fire and forget add-on just to kind of remind you when stuff comes off cooldown, it could be useful. Now, of course, I do have Bartender 4 for my action bars. You can mess around with it, move your bars, you know, and you can change what bars are active, things like your vehicle bar, action button, so on. You can keybind whatever you like to whatever button. And then for damage meters, I've got Skada for healing and damage. I've also heard good things about Details, so you can check that out as well. Although I haven't used it myself, so I can't vouch for or against it. And then raid cooldowns. I use Exorcist raid tools. And that's all I really use it for right now, but you can set the priorities, so you can set the order of cooldowns and so on. You can figure it as you like. It does a lot more stuff too. It does a battle res timer. It's not what I use for battle res, but it does have one. You can raid check, raid inspect, and so on. And then for battle res, I'm just using ORA 3. And this I'm literally just using for battle res monitor and ready check monitor to see who's eaten, flasks, and so on. But just pretty simple. Shows you how many res you have, how much time left, and who res to with what ability. And that's pretty much it as far as add-ons that involve the UI. The raid frames are just the default Blizzard UI. You just go into interface in the game menu, raid profiles under game, and you can mess around with it here. That's pretty much it for this video. So if you liked it, feel free to hit it with a like. If you want to see when I post content like this or just new videos, feel free to subscribe to the channel so you know when that happens. And if you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and leave those in the comments section. Or you can check my stream out when I'm streaming at twitch.tv and say hi or ask your questions there, hang out, whatever you'd like. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Cheers.